Hi, beautiful and amazing filmmakers, and welcome to this week's Filmmaker to Filmmaker. I hope you guys are doing awesome. It is a beautiful Monday morning. It's kind of cool. It feels like we're back at school, we're getting back into the routine of life. I had an amazing summer. I hope you did too. But it feels like back to work now. My kid's at school, and here I am. My other kid is napping. He's not old enough to go to school yet one day. So, hi, how are you? So today on Filmmaker to Filmmaker, I have a question. Hi, how are you? I have a question from a filmmaker, which I feel like I get a variation of this question sent to me every single week. And I feel like I've also just seen so many people struggle with this particular question a lot. And the question was this is what was written to me, but as I say, I see variations of this every week. But here we go. I've been trying to get my movie made for 3 years, and it's still not happening. I am losing hope. I don't know whether to give up or try something different. Okay. And they also mentioned a little bit about the sort of budget they were seeking, which in my mind was quite high for a first-time filmmaker, and so on. So again, the question we're going to be dealing with today is trying to get my film off the ground for a number of years and losing hope. And I'm going to write this actually as a comment so I can pin it. I've learned how to do this. I think I've learned how to do this. I'll try and do it. Trying to get a film off the ground and losing hope. And I say this person says they've been doing it for 3 years. Oh, this is not going so good. I'm going to get this. I'm going to film it. I'm trying to get film off the ground. So this is a common thing because it can take a long time to get a film off the ground, and we all will hear certain, let's see now. Okay. And now if I do that, that pins it. Okay. I've learned how to pin a comment. Don't say you can't learn new tricks. There we go. Somebody's like, yeah, it's amazing. I feel it's so funny, these things with Instagram, like when you just sort of realize how you can do a certain thing that's so basic, but it feels like a big win. When you're my age, it feels like a big win. Okay, so now the first thing I want to say to this filmmaker about this situation, if you've been trying to get a film off the ground for years and it's still not happening, the first thing is to continue to do the same thing that you've been doing for all these years, and do them in the same way and expect a different result is kind of like the definition of crazy, right? Because if you keep doing the same thing in the same way, you're going to keep getting the same result, and clearly that is a result that you don't want. That is the result of not making your movie, and you want to get your film off the ground. Somebody here, William, is saying, I'm planning on writing a screenplay next week to film. Yay, congrats, do it. I'll hold you accountable, William. I want to hear it. Start writing it next week, and yeah, you should have a decent script by the end of the year, and you can make your film next year. That's a good plan. If you keep, if you've been like trying to get your film off the ground in a certain way, and you keep trying to do it and it's not happening and you're getting rejections, it is time for you to start thinking about this and approaching it in a different way. Okay, and so what I'm going to propose to you today, to the filmmaker who wrote to me about this, is a few different ways for you to think about this problem so that you can get a different result. And that result is actually making your film instead of talking about it and thinking about it and dreaming about it. So the first thing that I want you to consider is, how are you trying to make this? And is it worth reconsidering some of the fundamental strategies that you are employing right now? Hey, John, how you doing? Let's think about what those are, the fundamental strategies that you're employing to get your movie made right now. Now, this is what I'm talking about here is, for instance, the budget that you think you need, right? And I see many people, they start out thinking that they really need $5 million to make the movie, or they need $3 million to make the movie, or whatever it is, right? And they're going to have to raise that. They're going to have to get a production company involved, whatever. The cast, that they are convinced that they need certain cast. Someone's completed a screenplay. Yay, good Sean Rhee, is it? Or Sean Rhee Lee? That's awesome. Completed screenplay into a film. Yes. So the budget, the cast, the collaborators, the possible financiers. Like, you have a strategy in place right now for all the things that you think you need, and it's not working. And so often it is worth going back to these things and reconsidering them, right? Now, especially if you're a first time filmmaker, if you are pinning your hope on basically getting a production company involved and you're planning a multi-million dollar budget, this is very hard to achieve. Now, I'm not going to say it's impossible. It is not. There are people who achieve it, right? But if that is your plan, like I just go, you have to really think about how you're going to make that happen. And it probably is a proof of concept. I think, for instance, of a movie like Whiplash, he was a first-time filmmaker. He made a proof of concept, i.e. a short film that blew people's minds, right? That people absolutely loved. And so they said, yes, we will give you millions of dollars for your first movie because you've proven that this is going to be amazing, right? So if you have got your sights set on that and you're a first-time filmmaker, like, I really encourage you to think about, if you haven't done it already, a short film or something like that can like prove that this is worthy. Otherwise, I would say, like, it's often worth reconsidering. Do you really need to get that bigger budget? Even a film like Whiplash could ultimately really have been made probably for a few $100,000, different cast. It probably wouldn't have won Oscars, so it would have been in a different category. But you probably could have made a fantastic film anyway with it, right? And I just have this thing. I think it's better to make a movie than not make one, right? I think it's better to make one for a few $100,000 than not make one at all, right? And I've seen friends of mine and people, like, going after the bigger budget, going after the star names, going after, like, that kind of entry-level film, and they never get their movie made. Like, 10 years later, never mind 10 years, 5 years later, and then 10 years later, it's not being made. And I sort of go like, my God, if they had just, like, buckled down and made it happen themselves, they would have made a movie. And once you make something, other things happen. That's how it works, right? It's how it's worked for me. It's how it works for so many. So if you make it, you're going to learn. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to get your movie done. So at a certain point, if you're going after this, and this filmmaker did say that they're going after, it's a $2 million budget. Now, if this is your first movie, there's a part of me that thinks at a certain point it might be worth considering, do I really need $2 million to make this movie? Or is that my ego talking? And is it possible? Is there a way that I could make it for a lot less than that and just actually make it happen myself? And this is what I mean about reconsidering the foundational strategies of your movie, right? Because you've set on a certain strategy where you think you need $2 million to make the movie, and you need these stars, and you need this kind of budget and this kind of production company. But maybe, and that's one of your foundational strategies, right? And I just go like, maybe it's worth considering a different foundational strategy. Maybe it's worth thinking, could I raise $200,000 myself and make this movie for that kind of money, right? And I would hazard a guess that unless it's like a big action movie, or unless it's a big, like, science fiction with a lot of special effects or something, unless it's something like that, you probably can, and that way you can do it yourself. People who know me will know I'm just obsessed with this. Like, I go, instead of looking for the permission, of the powers that be, and if you're looking for $2 million, you're looking for permission, right? Give yourself permission and just make it happen. And no, you're not going to have the fancy names, you're not going to have the fancy production company, but you will have made a movie, and you know what? Then the fancy names will come to you, right? Because you will have something, you'll prove yourself, right? But if you haven't done anything, you can be waiting a very long time for permission. You could be waiting the rest of your life, because you'd have no control over that. But if you decide today, like, you know what? Maybe I could do this movie for $200,000. Maybe I could raise that money myself. Maybe I could make this movie for that. You're on the path to self-control, self-empowerment, making a movie, and actually, creating the career that you want instead of waiting for someone to give it to you. And I really go, like, I think often the desire for us to have $2 million to make the movie, the desire to have the stars, the desire to have the production company, is not really about we need that to make the movie. It's we need that validation to feel worthy of making the movie, right? like we feel then we're validated, we feel safe, we feel more secure, rather than I'm gonna raise $200,000 myself and just freaking make it, right? That takes a lot of courage because no one's validating you, but you're validating yourself. And I'm gonna say this: if you have a script that's worth it, validate yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. You don't have to do that. You can do it yourself. So let's go back though to this question, to this filmmaker. 3 years in, okay, here we are, still not getting the movie made. Reconsidering your foundational strategy is one path you can take. And as I say, that might mean saying, okay, I'm going to change the budget. I'm just going to change the whole way we're approaching this. I'm not looking for $2 million anymore. I'm looking for $200,000. Another way, though, is, it's reconsidering the package that you are presenting, right? And this is asking yourself, do the materials that you are going out with really sell your project well? And I'm just going to say, if you're not getting the results you want, they're probably not, right? So in this, we're looking at what are you using to sell the project, right? Like, what are the things that you are presenting to people in an attempt to get them to give you money to make your movie? And this will include, obviously, your script itself, right? Is the script good enough? Does it need more work, etc., right? Could it be better? But it also includes the ancillary materials that you are using. For instance, your budget schedule, if you have one, right? Like, is your budget, is the amount of money you're seeking really the right amount for this project, right? Another thing to consider is your concept. Have you made a concept trailer? And as I said, think about something like Whiplash. The way that he raised the money was by making a short film that proved this film was going to be amazing, right? So do you have a concept trailer already? Do you have something you can show people that will show them the movie's going to be awesome? If you don't, I strongly recommend you do that. I strongly recommend it. It's really something like when people can see proof that this thing is going to work, they're in, and whatever budget level you're seeking, I just feel like it's a very powerful thing. Last week, we did a whole thing about concept trailers. If you haven't seen it, is it up on YouTube yet? If it's not up on YouTube yet, it will be very soon. So if you are interested about concept trailers and how to make a good one, look up on my YouTube channel and you'll find a whole film about creating great concept trailers. But I think that is a very powerful tool to have, and then also just your business package, any kind of package that you have for this film, are you selling it in the right way? And this goes into just the basics of your log line, right? The synopsis that you're using, the tools that you're using to hook people in. And I would sort of go if you're trying to get your film off the ground, at what stage are people dropping off interest, right? Are they not even wanting to read the script? If they're not wanting to read the script, I think there's something wrong with your log line, right? If people are wanting to read the script though, and then they're dropping off, there's something wrong with the script, right? If people are reading the script, looking at the materials, and then they're dropping off, it's something wrong. So try to find within that flow where the weak point is, right? And then look at what you can do to make it stronger. Always as well, if people are saying no to you, if somebody turns you down, try to get into a conversation with them. Don't just take the no as the final no. Try to get into a conversation with them about the why they are saying no and what they think the project needs in order for it to be a yes. Okay? And this is very important because I think very often we will just scuttle away. We get a rejection and we're so, we feel ashamed, or we feel embarrassed, or we feel sad, we feel whatever, small, dejected, and so we don't really approach it as an opportunity to learn about our project. It's just sort of go run away and lick our wounds. And I would really encourage you, if you're getting no's, and if you're not getting no's, then you're not doing your job of getting it out there, right? But if you're getting no's, I just always go try to be able to get in the position where you can say to somebody when they say, well, this isn't for us, just get back to them and say why. I totally get that. I appreciate your time. I'm really glad you considered this. Could you give me, some indication, could you explain a little bit about why this wasn't your, project for you and what would make it a better project for you? Now, the final thing that I want to say to this filmmaker, after 3 years of trying to get a movie off the ground, I want to talk to you a little bit and ask you a little bit about what your energy is like around this project. And this is such an important thing because very often after 3 years of trying to get something off the ground, our excitement around it has faded. I know for myself, after a certain amount of time, at the very beginning, I'm so excited about the movie. Hey, like I'm so excited about the project. And then after a while, my excitement dims, right? Like after I've received a certain amount of rejections, I start to think, oh, well, maybe I'm wrong about it. Maybe it's not that great, And I start to have that energy about it. And this is so important because basically, if you are approaching people or companies with an air, like even a slight whiff of desperation, and there's a little bit like you're already anticipating the rejection, like you're not going to get anywhere, and it's just like dating. And I always use these analogies because I'm just like, okay, if you're approaching dating, you're like really desperate, you're convinced that you're going to be rejected, like it's not going to go well, it's never going to go well, you're not going to meet the love of your life when you're in that frame of mind. And likewise, you're not going to find ideal collaborators. They're not going to get on board when you're sort of like shuffling around like, well, here's this thing that I've got, but I don't know, and we've been trying to raise money for 3 years. It's not going to work. And the funny thing is, I don't think you can totally fake this. Like, I think you can fake it to an extent, but if you're feeling in your heart that it's not going to work, it's not going to work, So one of the really tricky things, at this point is relighting that fire in you and the belief in you. And I think the belief is the really important thing here. You have to believe that it's possible to get your film made. Otherwise, it's not going to get made. If you don't believe it, it hasn't got a hope, right? And as I say, this can be a difficult thing to fake, and after you've accumulated a number of rejections, it gets more difficult, because obviously if people keep telling you no, 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 right? Like your brain starts to go, oh, well, there's all this evidence telling me that this isn't going to work, so now I have to believe something that seems increasingly impossible. If you have 3 years of trying to get something off the ground and it starts with a total excitement and belief that it's all going to happen and it's going to be amazing, and then over the years it's sort of like, oh, it just gets harder and harder to convince yourself, that this is going to be amazing. So what do you do about this? There's a couple of things that I would suggest, and I talk about these things a lot. I think it's okay just to take some time out to reignite the belief in the project. And that might be like going through all your materials and just like, recreating them, like just getting fresh with everything about the project, right? And I think then like working the affirmations, working the visualizations, all of that stuff is super important. I think I've talked about this before, but just like writing down like what your hopes and dreams for the movie are can be really, really helpful, in doing that like every single day, not just once, but actually just like write down your dreams, your beliefs around this film. And getting to a place where you really believe it, so that when you're approaching people, it's really like this movie is happening with or without you. When you get to the place where you have so much conviction in the film that you really don't need that person, because it's going to happen anyway. It's going to happen whether they get involved, in any case. That's when it will happen, Somebody said visualize. Yes, I think it's super important. And when you get to that space, so if you feel that level of confidence when you're going into a meeting, that you really are like, hey, if this person wants to get on board, amazing. And if they don't, also amazing, because the right person is going to be, they're coming for this, right? And getting into that space with it. And if you're in that space, I feel like it does start to come together. Now, I think sometimes it is okay to move on to a different project. And I just want to talk about this because sometimes actually taking time away from one project, I think, can let us come back to that initial project with a renewed confidence. So I know overall we're always like, don't quit, like you can't, like if you quit, you won't succeed, and never give up. And if you give up, you won't succeed. And I get that, but I don't think it's necessarily you're giving up on your filmmaking dreams. It's like, sometimes, okay, if you imagine your dream is that island over there and you're on one ship and you think you can get to the island with this ship, but suddenly you realize there's a much better ship, right? Like, you'd be kind of crazy not to jump on that other ship, right? Get off your leaky boat, and get on this other ship. So I think like there's a possibility, like that sometimes you jump ships, right? That you jump off the ship you're in and go for another one. So if you've been working on one project for 3 years and it's really not happening, and you've got another idea for a project, or you've written another script, it's okay. I give you permission to change your focus, you know? And it's not that that other one is completely dead, but maybe it's just not its time, you know, and maybe there's something else. So I think like the idea that you have to keep flogging the same one regardless, it's not always the right choice. But it's knowing in your heart, you know, and it's like tuning into yourself. Are you jumping ship because it's getting hard, you know? Or is it the right thing to do? You know, and be clear to yourself, because it will get hard. The process is hard. As I say, if your aim is to get to a certain island, there are going to be storms between your harbor and that island. It's inevitable. So if you're just jumping ship because you're scared of the storm and you're just staying in the harbor all the time, can you keep just swapping ships in the harbor? That is not good, right? You have to go out to sea. You have to face the storms. You have to go through the storms. That is part of the process of making a film, okay? So if you are sort of like thinking about moving on to a different project because you're afraid of the storm, that's not good. But if you're, you know, if you're planning to like change ship because you really believe this other ship has a better chance of getting you there, then do it. And it feels like absolutely aligned and like the right choice, then absolutely do it. But make sure that you're not just perennially jumping ship. And I do have some friends who are like, they never leave the harbor because they're always jumping ship. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you've ever known anyone like that, or if you are that person, right? Like you want to get the island. The island is like filmmaking success, right? You know, you're in the harbor and you're just like literally going from one boat to another in the harbor and never setting sail, you know. And I have a couple of friends that have done that, and it breaks my heart, because every ship that they have in the harbor is amazing, but they never really give it the fair chance out at sea because they get scared, and it does scary. So, you know, this is the thing. You've been in this game, you know, for this filmmaker, it's 3 years. That's a long time. That's a lot of dedication. I do also wonder though, like, okay, and you can like get angry with me for even suggesting this, like, you know, have you really been working it for 3 years? Or is it like, oh, you know, you make one call 1 month and then you put it away for a couple months? You know, this is the thing, like I always joke about the fact like my first script took me 3 years to write, but it actually took me 8 weeks. It took me 8 weeks over 3 years. So if you've been like legit taking action every day for 3 years, you know, and you're still not there, I'm feeling your pain, you know. And I just go like, this is tough, and you know, do what I told you here, you know, like reconsider the strategies, you know, rethink things, revisit the materials. But if you are actually just sort of going, I've been trying to get my film off the ground for 3 years, and what that means is that over those 3 years you've submitted it to 3 competitions and 1 lab, and you've submitted it to 2 companies, like, sorry, this is another thing that I'm gonna say, you have to commit to taking like massive consistent action, okay? And this is so important if you're gonna have success in filmmaking. It's not just like one competition every 6 months. It's not, you know, like go to a film festival and talk to 2 people and then like disappear into your hole again and go, this is so hard. It is like saying to yourself, from this day forward, I am going to take at least 1 action every single day that moves me towards my goal, no matter how uncomfortable that action is, no matter how difficult it is for me, no matter how scary it is for me, I'm going to do it, you know. I have one friend, one student of mine who recently, and I'm so proud of her, she's just been in LA, and she doesn't live in Los Angeles, but she's gone there. She is making stuff happen, and she got an opportunity to drop her script off at her dream company, and she did it. And she wrote to me and she said, that was the scariest thing I have ever done in my life. And I'm like, I get it. And I know her. She's done some scary stuff. You know, we all have. But, you know, this is the thing. Like, we can trick ourselves sometimes into thinking that we're really trying to get stuff off the ground, but we're not taking the big risk. We're not putting ourselves out there. We're not really doing what we have to do. So I want you, and this filmmaker, forgive me if you really are doing all those things. And if you are, congratulations. But so often we're not, right? We say we are, but we're really, really not. And I just go like, you know, wherever you are in this process, you know, take the actions. It won't happen just by sitting thinking about it. It won't happen by just doing courses. It won't happen by reading about it. It won't happen by listening to me. It will happen by actually going out there, making phone calls, emailing people, taking all the risks, taking all the risks, talking to everybody you meet about your script or your film, like just taking every meeting you can about it, taking every opportunity you can to talk to people about this film and make it happen, because that is what it takes. Okay. So I just wanted to end on that note for this filmmaker. Keep going. Do keep going. Don't give up on believing that you'll get to the island, even if you have to even if you do have to change ships, even if that's for a little while. So to this filmmaker, I hope this has been helpful. I have here, if you do not know about it, this is a copy of my book, Shoot from the Heart. I don't know if you guys have read this. This book has like a ton of ideas and information about how to make it happen on your own terms. So if you are, if you decide that you just want to make your film, if you're like done with sort of like the whole idea of trying to sell it to somebody else, I strongly, and it's not because like I want to sell my book, like go to the library and check it out. I feel like this book, it's the book that I wish I had had, and it is full of a ton of very basic nuts and bolts information about how to make it happen. There is an element of inspiration. Somebody say, good advice, great book. Thank you. I feel like it's like very nuts and bolts though, because a lot of people will get intimidated by the idea of making a film themselves. Like it's like we feel more comfortable with the idea of selling it to somebody else who knows how to make them, right? And so we'll sell like I'm gonna sell my movie and somebody else is gonna do that. But if you get to the point where you really are like, I just want to make my film, first of all, there's nothing to stop you. There's absolutely nothing to stop you from making your movie, and second of all, there's nothing to stop you doing it well, and making a movie that actually can have huge success. Somebody's saying gathering a team. You're gathering a team just now? I hope so. And this is it, like, it's like the book will guide you through the process. Oh, the book is called Shoot from the Heart. It's Shoot from the Heart. So it's, I don't know if, does that go the right way? Does it spin it around? Shoot from the Heart. And basically this book will guide you through the whole process of making a movie. And it takes you from like developing your script right through development, raising money, creating a package, and then making the film. And it's just like the basics that you need for every stage, and just takes away the mystery. So no matter where you are or who you are, you can do it. And I felt like when I started out, there was like a lot of books about like real guerrilla filmmaking, which is making a movie for no money. And then there's a lot of books about like the very conventional path, which felt out of reach to me. And I think this book is somewhere in between. Like, this is a strategy for raising finance up to probably $500,000, and you probably could raise more than that. One of my students raised $500,000 using this kind of technique. And like, my thing is, if you want to do it, just do it. Don't wait for permission. Like, when I read somebody saying, I've been trying to make my movie for 3 years, I'm like, stop trying and just do it, right? Like, when you decide, when you make that decision, there's nothing to stop you, right? You can raise the money. You can figure all of this out. You can get the team. You can do it. And you can make a movie that can really play at any level. My first film, I made it for $140,000. I raised that money myself. And that film played in Sundance in the main competition, Somebody said you're saying yes. Oh, well, thank you. And there's like absolutely nothing to stop you from doing that yourself. And that's what I share in the book. That's what I will be sharing we're doing a free live masterclass in less than a week. Oh, this was really funny. So there's an ad on Facebook right now that's like, inviting people to the free live masterclass. And somebody wrote, I love the internet, how it just brings out all the angry people who oh, this is like a masterclass. I thought that meant it's taught by someone who's at the top of their game, and I don't see that here, which I thought was just really funny. And somebody responded, well, have you got a movie into Sundance? I call it a masterclass just because I feel like this is like these are like advice from somebody who's done it. I think that's why I call it that. You know, I've made 3 movies, I've written a book on the subject, I've taught like dozens and dozens of workshops, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people who've had masses of success. That's why I call it a masterclass. You can call it a training or a workshop. I don't care. Okay. But if you haven't signed up for it, please do. The link is in my profile. And, you know, in that class, we will be going over a lot of the stuff that's in this book and stuff beyond the book, you know, and it's all about actually getting your film off the ground. So for this filmmaker who asked, you know, they're losing hope, make sure you sign up for this. At the very least, you will get like an hour of kind of inspiration and I think strength and courage and, you know, and that kick in the butt you need to feel like I can do this, it is possible. And why don't I just do it by myself? What am I waiting for? You know, because that's my ultimate message always. Like, I mean, if I had waited for somebody to give me permission, if I had waited for somebody to say, I choose you, I think I would still be waiting. Choose yourself, you know, choose yourself, do it. And, you know, a year from now, you can have a movie made, a completed movie, and you won't be like anymore talking about like you're losing hope and losing faith. You will be feeling amazing because even if your movie doesn't work out exactly how you wanted it to, I swear to God, you will be so glad that you did it. There's nothing better. All right, you guys, I hope this has been helpful for the filmmaker who wrote to me. Don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. Stop your brain right there. You can do this. And it will happen the day that you 100% choose yourself. So make that the day. Make today the day. Sign up for the masterclass. The link is in my profile. And let's get your movie off the ground so that this time next year, it's in the can, it's done, it's completed, and you're a filmmaker and you're no longer feeling depressed about it. Someone says, see you at the masterclass. Yes, definitely. And thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you guys are all having a gorgeous Monday. Have a great day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.